Up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the feel-good story of the year resides in Lubbock, Texas, and Chris Level says buy your Big 12 title game tickets now.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the world. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again and looking ahead as we kick open the doors to this open week. And of course, thinking about things well beyond just the regular season as you're staring the regular season finale in the face. It'll come Morgantown way, West Virginia, fitting the description of the final regular season victim, but some time to think about that before we get there. And actually some time I'm grateful for, I think, given sort of the state of your team's medical report throughout the season. So not mad to have a little extra time coming up this weekend. But
we all need a mental break, man. We all need a
1,000%.
We've been on the treadmill, the stress treadmill. We need to just step off it for a bit and catch our breath for sure. I don't disagree with that.
Self-care week for the Red Raiders out there. I do want to get to what went down in the Big 12 over the weekend because already getting a lot of texts and questions since the final score there on Saturday for the Red Raiders about should we buy tickets in Arlington just yet? And we're going to get to talk of clinching things and many things along those lines after another go-round in the Big 12 conference. So we'll get to that coming up in just a moment. Also want to get to maybe what we're anticipating as far as some college football playoff selection committee reaction to the weekend that was. You were tasked with doing some certain things by that committee. Never mind the fact that that leader was deposed since you were last tasked with those things. There's a new leader now in place, and they're looking for the same thing. So a simple question, are you not entertained with what we gave you over the weekend? And also a convenient example, Chris, as to exactly what my beef was with the process last week from this very weekend just gone by. I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, 100% no doubter, consensus around the world. The home to the feel-good story of the year is Lubbock, Texas, and it involves a mustachioed man by the name of Jacob Rodriguez. This story often running and truly with legs, wings, whatever at this point in time. I feel like we were just trying to sort of inflate it and pump some air into it a few weeks back. It's doing fine on its own now, Chris, and obviously very cognizant of this story when it comes to Jacob Rodriguez and pursuits of national honors and awards internally. And we saw that in the form of a new offensive red zone or goal line wrinkle involving Mr. Rodriguez back at it. You really did it. You maniacs, you really did it. I mean, we had some fun thinking about this last week, and all of a sudden, boom, there's number 10 in the end zone. And Chris, given all that surrounds his story, that does involve his arrival at Texas Tech. That does involve his wife and his family and everything you could consider. I just don't know that there's a better one running in college football this year. I love him between the lines, but the story that we've had to digest as Red Raider fans, also something I'm not taking for granted, man. This is really what we're here for. We love great football players, obviously, but we love great characters as well. And he's a memorable one, really, for all the right reasons.
Yeah, and he's playing this character so well, and you're almost, this isn't his natural personality, right? I mean, he's a bit reserved and very chill, and I think that he's kind of coming along for the ride in some ways, but he's been so gracious with, I mean, Cowan at Joey's coaches show last week, I bet he signed 50 to 75 autographs in the 10 minutes that he stood up there with me, and during the break, and like even while I'm talking to him, he's still just signing posters, and little kids, adults, all the things, signing posters and helmets and all this stuff. And then, and here's the other funny thing about the coaches show interview. I poke at Joey. I'm like, dude, you're trying to get the guy the HEISMAN, like throw him the ball, hand him the ball. Like you want And he's like, yeah, they were working on it all week. I didn't know that. When Jacob gets up there, I'm like, have you gone to Mac and like said, hey man, I was a quarterback. I've been hurdling dudes. Like you've seen me in the open field running the football. Like what do I need to do? Again, they all were very coy about it. And him getting to touch the football on offense, I thought was a huge thing, because I think Joey's comment was, I mean, all this talk about quarterbacks out there, so we just thought we'd put him at quarterback. Well, this is what he does, and this is what he did. Wichita Falls Rider, he made a living off of that play, except for a lot of those plays were going for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 yards back in high school. Imagine trying to tackle that dude in high school, and then they'd put him back at safety on occasion as well. But, yeah, big-time high school career at Wichita Falls Rider as a quarterback, and then obviously that's what he went to Virginia as. But like that offensive play was called the stash package.
Of course,
it's just great. I mean, you I think got to tell everybody in the stadium the fighter pilots that were flying the F-16s.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just let you take that.
Stash 11, Stash 12, code names. I believe
this is great. So
that's synchronicity, Chris.
Yes, it is, and I think him walking out there on senior day with his cowboy hat on, I'm like, of course. And he's like, I think he was asked about it after the game. He's like, yeah, I just put it on. Wasn't even thinking about it. But it all is intentional, but I think it's also unintentional. All this stuff kind of happening, and he's just a quality human. He's going to go down as one of the best guys that has ever played defense, on this campus. For this university, for this football program. And there is a lot of them that deserve some, respect. Some of their names are hanging up there on the wall or stuck up there on the Ring of Honor and everything like that. But this dude, man, and he's got more chapters that he's still writing. You have to win, because see, like the thing about, like, I think people are going to forget years gone by how good Jordan Brooks was here. Jordan Brooks was a phenomenal player. He was a first-round draft pick that, I mean, hundreds of tackles here.
And still, right, he's an NFL tackling leader.
Oh, yes, he is. I mean, and yes, he is.
I felt like he sort of was at the beginning stages of the linebacker revolution at
I
Tech.
agree. Keith Patterson deserves a lot of credit for what he did with Jordan Brooks. And people, because you didn't win enough in that time, people will largely forget about it. But the Seattle Seahawks and now the Miami Dolphins, they are certainly appreciative of what Jordan Brooks is still doing. But I'm just talking about linebackers, because you had the Dakota Allen, you had Rico Jeffers, and you had Colin Schooler, and some of those groups were like, man, this is pretty good around here. Like, I'm not used to this. But there was like a renaissance, as you mentioned. But what Jacob Rodriguez has done, and some of this, just you have to win for it to matter. If you aren't winning, it just doesn't matter. The awards may be there, or the all conference this, but to be a part of the award that they're trying to get him on the radar for, it has to be winning football that comes along with it. That's just the way it works. And I think that, and it also takes teammates that are very supportive, because you don't think that if David Bailey was like really, if he wanted to be like a jerk and be like, man, why aren't y'all doing this for me? Like, why am I not getting them? I got 12 and a half sacks. I lead the country. But it's all just working hand in hand, and everybody's supportive of this. And it's just because he's such a good dude, and all of these guys are good people, man. And it's just been fun to watch this all play out. But he's kind of the head of the snake, and he would be the first one to tell you the fridge feeds everybody, mainly me, and I benefit from what Romello and David are doing. And I'm there to make the plays because I'm clean. I'm able to move around the cabin and not have my seatbelt buckled and all that stuff. So, but yeah, the interception though, that's the one you can script the offensive play. You can kind of jam that in the end zone. And you know, as Jacob said, man, Skylar Howard could have rolled his scooter through that hole right there. And I don't know if you heard this, but Rodriguez was like, he was kind of freaked out because when you're on offense, the crowd's supposed to be quiet so you can hear. He's like, everybody's cheering when I ran out there, so I couldn't hear the cadence. I was just trying not to get a false start or screw that part up, but it all worked out. But the interception, that's the one that, I mean, Cowan, I think he's responsible for more like forced turnovers than some of these Big 12 teams as a whole.
Yeah, I saw that list right in the middle of it. Yeah. Compared to other Big 12 defenses,
yes,
he holds his own.
Yes, I mean the forced fumbles, the interceptions. I mean, all.
Think about that number compared to some Tech defenses of years gone by. When we say, "What's it been? About 18 months since we had one?" I mean, we were in a drought, to say the least, for a period of time.
Yes, you were. Which you're just asking. Yeah. Hey, what's the biggest stat category that you could hope for in this upcoming season? Like turnover margin. It can mask a lot of deficiencies and this and that, but you just haven't been able to take the ball away. And boy, you've been able to do that this year. Had two, because the last 2 weeks you're what is that? 5-0, 5 takeaways, no giveaways. I don't think, and so that's a lot of fun. But Jacob is the head of the snake as it relates to this Texas Tech defense, on a defense with so many good players at all 3 levels.
Yeah, it's like Medusa. There are many snakes to deal with.
Yes. And
an analogy I didn't anticipate making.
I know. But I think Texas Tech and Joey or whoever's responsible for all this has done a really good job of trying to make everyone aware of Jacob's candidacy, if you will. And I'll say this. I don't think he has any chance to win it just because that's not really what they do. But I'm starting to think that he's getting close to being a lock to go to New York.
I was about to say, true or false, he has to be in New York. And I'm glad Joey McGuire also mentioned this following the game. There's been some, like in Twitter land, mention it, which I don't think that necessarily ever matters. But like the comparisons to Mr. Catfish from Notre Dame once upon a time.
Mentatau, yeah.
He has to be in New York, period.
Yeah, I saw like and I'm trying to remember if he got a visit or not, but like Will Anderson, I think from Alabama, who was like ended up being a top pick place for the Texans now. I think he had like 17 sacks that when he didn't win it. I'm trying to remember if he got invited. So there's some and some of it is just the way it falls in that particular year too, right? It's kind of like you know it when you see it, but over 100 tackles, the turnovers and all that stuff, and just the story too. Just the story. So we'll see where this goes, but it has been fun to watch it kind of percolate in the last couple of weeks, and he's done nothing. He's done nothing but show up when and be consistent, which is one of the hardest things to achieve, man. But 2 interceptions in the last 2 weeks, and when I'm looking back there and you're watching the ball and it's tipped up and somebody's running with it, I'm like, oh, well, of course number 10's running with the ball. Of course it was him. I mean, it's just we're just used to it. And he'll play well in West Virginia as well, and it will be needed again.
Unstoppable force, immovable object. He are both, and it's inevitable week to week. So can't wait to see him back on the field. I forgot by this point in time what the actual number would look like, Chris, but I'm reminded just every once in a while about what we used to say about him. Well, your record when he starts and plays a game is this as a team. And that was before you had this huge, transfer influx and all these new faces and huge investment. There was a direct correlation between Jacob Rodriguez being on the field and you winning games even prior to this season. Obviously, that trend has continued. So glad for that. Let's flip to the other side, Chris. Offensively, wanted to get into some things that, seemed like a bit of, como se dice, demands, requirements from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and football is in full force, and FanDuel's keeping you stocked with action every game day with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered. Quick, easy, and secure every time. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Demands, requirements from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee a week ago. A lot of this having to do with offensively what you were leaving undone in the red zone. I don't think necessarily this was the game where you could just prove it all, obviously, with what you were considering on the other side in UCF, but you did what was asked. I'm glad that Joey McGuire also specifically pointed this out, talked about it post-game. Why not? If they're throwing it out there at you, why not give it right back to them? So what do we make of maybe anticipating some of the assessments as it relates to Texas Tech following this latest offensive effort?
Yeah, we talked about this in the radio broadcast, but in the last week, Coach Leftwich, he's like, I bet I looked at 10,000 clips of the top 10. It was in the thousands as far as how many plays he'd watched over the top 10, red zone offenses over the last couple of years. He's like, am I missing something? Am I, and we know about the penalties and the drops. Okay, right. So, but is there some sort of thing that we can tweak or adjust to? And I think what he found was, one, they didn't talk about false starts and drops at all last week internally. They were like, we're not putting that out there. If you start talking about it too much, then guys start thinking about it, and it just becomes a thing. So they didn't really talk about it. Guys know, don't do this, catch the ball when it's thrown to you, all that stuff. But one of the things I think he found was that so much of what was in a lot of the common theme in the red zone offenses and these schools being very good at it and all that stuff is the QB run game or the QB scrambles. You don't really have that as an option right now. And so I think that one of the things that he did come away from is like, okay, there are certain plays that we could maybe feature a different guy over another. Like, who do we want specifically getting touches down there? Okay. And who's built for red zone. And it's an obvious, like, well, you've got 2 running backs, you've got 2 tight ends, you've got 3 receivers. And so there's only so many choices you can choose from. But I do think that they intentionally, the Jacob Rodriguez thing, we'll see where that continues. I wouldn't say that that's maybe the last you've seen of that. And I think you can kind of play off of that a bit. There are other things that I think they have not run yet that they've got in store for whenever they want to pull that out. But I think getting Terrence Carter a carry, I think Reggie Virgil getting carries, which is the first of his college career. I think these were some changes. And the one open field reverse, the longer of the 2 runs, I think that's been one that they've been carrying for a month. And Joey and Mac joked about it after the game about that, but it's just one of those things where, like, you have it, okay, we'll practice it, we'll rep it, and then we'll carry it to the next week. And it's like, okay, when do we get in the right time? And finally, I think Joey joked when he's like, I told Max, like, call it, please. I'm tired of watching it get practiced. I want us to run it, and they did. And so I think, yeah, that was the joke. It's like, hey, it's off the call sheet now. We ran it, but it's because I think you even said from your view that you felt like that one faked you out. Did it not?
I was anxious to see the TV replay because I felt like Chris Tucker. Which one of y'all just kicked me? Because there were so many things happening, and the defense had to feel that way as well. So there was a lot of motion one direction, but unfortunately for UCF, the only one that mattered was Virgil's motion in the other direction, and he's got space to the end. I mean, that was among a few different things we saw where I'm anxious to see the replay on television to try and figure out exactly what.
It was almost like you're running a toss sweep. Everybody's going one way, and then Reggie just he motioned through it, and like and it just, it worked. And then he's able to, you had your receivers out blocking, and you just basically just trying to get the ball to your guy in the open field and let him do his thing. And you did that. I thought the TC thing, that's more of a low red zone scenario. He didn't quite get into the end zone, but it did move it to the 2-yard line, or 1 or 2 yard line, which allowed you to punch it in with the stash package as we talked about. But you're starting to see, I think they'll continue to get more creative. But I liked it. I think you liked it. I think Joey liked it. I think Mac liked it, and it all worked. The red zone stuff, not really a talking point this week. And again, I'll mention to you, this was a UCF defense that's statistically, and this was large in part the side of the ball that was relatively healthy for them. The questionable players, they're good players that you were kind of wondering about, they all played the entire game. It was their offense that was mostly injured, but you did something that really nobody had been able to do all year, and that was put up a significant amount of points on these guys because they had not given up more than, I think, 31, 33, something like that all season, and you had 35, at some point in the second quarter, and then obviously got that to 38 before halftime, and then kept going from there. But yeah, the red zone stuff was a lot of fun. But hey, man, you want to hand it to Reggie and TC? You want to do some different things with your All-American linebacker or whatever bell and whistle you've got? I'm here for it.
All right, so we'll see what the oracles of the college football playoff have to say about it here this week and kind of continue to chase these fluid and tangible things. But I would like to offer up, before we move on, Chris, and wrap it up, an example from the weekend gone by as to exactly what my beef was I was trying to describe last week, was sort of the way that they have viewed how they're supposed to perceive or assess or at least qualify as relevant some of these things they see week to week. And I feel like this was misunderstood or maybe just flew by some last week. I don't mind you disagreeing, obviously, with what I was saying was my perspective on the matter. But I do feel like in some cases, some felt like I was disagreeing with what the selection committee was saying about Tech's offense. Obviously couldn't. Anybody with eyes would agree with what they were literally saying. So didn't disagree with that, was not offended by that. And I think some also felt like, hey, why would you say this when actually what you're talking about would hurt Texas Tech's case in this instance if you were going to like computer approach, whatever. Right. So I had to point out, this is not a tech-centric perspective. This is a football consumer perspective in order to try to best assess or put together a playoff field. And one of the examples, Chris, that I thought was right there for us to decipher from the weekend that just went by played out in College Station, because I wonder if there was a whole lot of assessment of the Aggies last week that involved the possibility they could themselves this weekend, or that Marcel Reed could throw double picks, or you could be fumbling it in the red zone. Did you see that possibility? Did you dock them any points for being capable of that type of thing? I doubt it. And moving forward from this weekend, Chris, what I would like to hear from them in this example, and believe me, this is one that really tests my honor code because we're talking about the freaking Aggies here. But what I would really like to see for Team A and Team B, you win the day, you survive the day. If you're being docked for things, it's not like, oh, you weren't the prettiest in the red zone or offensively. It's that you sort of had to really duel it out with a 1-20 team or whatever South Carolina is. That's as in-depth as I really ever want them plumbing. And I thought that was just the exact example that I was kind of pointing to of how I don't want you assessing week to week the quarterback, the red zone, the backup option, the whatever it might be, as anything relevant to like where you should be resume wise. And I know some may just disagree with that, and that's fine. And that may not actually be the argument that best benefits Tech in this particular season. I don't know. But that's sort of what I'm talking about. Like, I'm sure they thought prior to the weekend, well, A&M's offense must just be the unstoppable force. Nothing will ever go wrong. Certainly not this week against South Carolina. But I guess they need reminding. This is college football we're talking about, and you never know what's going to happen. Is what I'm saying or describing making sense? Whether you agree or disagree, do you get what I'm kicking out there?
Yeah, November's tricky, but what you're going to hear about that A&M thing, I'm afraid, is like the narrative, large in part, will be, see, we've tried to tell you about the SEC. I mean, it's just it's a deep league, man. It can get you at any time. Whereas when the same thing kind of happens in other leagues, it's like, that league's that's not any good. I mean, so and both people would dig their heels in and very staunchly argue said points. Like, are you the crazy one? Like, or am I talking? This is just how this stuff goes. But weird stuff happens, and I don't know what we're gonna be told this week because the dynamic of who's telling us that has changed. The Arkansas AD is now the spokesperson, and you've got the Utah AD now in the mix again, and I don't know. The whole thing is going to be quite interesting on kind of the reasoning, I guess I should say. But it kind of leads to a different conversation, because I think that with Bama losing, I think with A&M not, I mean, is there an opportunity to move up here again, a spot or two maybe? Because what I'm seeing nationally and projections and all these things is Texas Tech is kind of in that 4-5 range. Like, again, it doesn't matter because there's still more to go. But that's kind of what the national thought is right now, is that they could be the last of the getting in the bye, or the first team that plays the 12 seed, kind of in that range, so to speak, maybe up from number 6. We'll see. That's going to require, though, you beating West Virginia and winning the Big 12 title game. So you're going to need a win number 11 and 12 for, I think, to matter, because the real question is, if you weren't to get it done in West Virginia, what then? What does that mean for your Arlington case and an at-large possibility? But yeah, that leads to a whole separate conversation, which I think we're going to get to here shortly.
Yeah, I wanted to get to the Big 12 title game specifically because getting some texts from some mobsters or otherwise on Saturday night. Hey, should I go ahead and get tickets for Arlington? First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly feel the call of the stadium. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can then splurge on foods, drinks, gear, and more. Gametime makes it all possible. And best of all, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're like me, you get tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal, and that's why Gametime's Zone Deals is the go-to move, since it automatically picks the best seats in your section for you at the best price. And as always, you can get a view from your seat right there in the app, so before you buy, you know exactly what you're going to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked on College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Yeah, I wanted to get to the Big 12 title game specifically because getting some texts from some mobsters or otherwise on Saturday night. Hey, should I go ahead and get tickets for Arlington? And, of course, my Saturday night vibes, Chris, led me to say, hell yeah, why would you not? But then I am also thinking about, like, are we 97, 98% clinched? Because I know you're not clinched, and that may be like being a little bit pregnant. So where are we exactly whenever it comes to still some shifting sands in the Big 12 after this most recent weekend and some tech odds on Arlington?
Yeah, the whole thing's giving me a headache because I feel like, I don't know, we'll find out potentially later today what the game time is in Morgantown. I think that selfishly, I think everybody would hope for as early of a game as possible on that day. 11 a.m., 2:30, whatever you can get. You don't want a night game. I don't know if it'll be some massive crowd. I don't know. Obviously, the weather would be better in the middle of the day or earlier in the day than it would be later in the day. There's all that. But then you start looking at, okay, if you do make it to Arlington, you just want to be back in a reasonable time so you can, all that stuff. Okay, so here's the way that I think you need to look at it. And these are the questions that I have too. I'm with everybody. I've got my wife and my now Red Raiders son, and my parents. I'm trying to get them there. I'm trying to figure out, you're just like in this limbo, like, okay, do we take a chance? If the worst case scenario happens, can I sell these bad boys? Okay, so here's where you're at. BYU and Utah held serve over the weekend, and there are still 4 other teams. I think Cincinnati is still mathematically there, Houston and Arizona State. I'm trying to think of maybe just 6 total that have a possibility of getting there. And there's very few games remaining to be played. But until you get certain results, but I don't think Texas Tech, and Joey said as much to me after the game on Saturday. I want to be in Arlington. I want win number 11. I want win number 12. I want win number 13, whatever this takes to get me and get this program to where we want to go and championships and all this stuff. Any of us would have taken this scenario, win at West Virginia and you're in Arlington before the season. Anybody. I don't care who you are. I don't want to hear anybody saying, but that's it may require that. And I think I'm okay with that. I don't, there's a 4-7 West Virginia team that is playing with a true freshman quarterback, their third stringer. They're playing without their best offensive player, Jaheim White, that got hurt earlier in the year. And so they've got a backup running back, but they're scrapping. They're fighting. They lost a close one. So, again, just to say that part, you win and you're in. And I don't think anybody wants to back into this thing. But if you, for purposes of this conversation, if you're looking to clinch a spot ahead of time, no, it hasn't happened yet. Is it likely? Sure, if everything that we think we know were to continue. But that's the problem, is that it is November, weird stuff happens. The simplest way for you to clinch a spot this weekend on the bye week is if BYU wins and Colorado beats Arizona State. I think you do that, you could even go lose to West Virginia, and I think you're still in you're in the Big 12 title game as you play out the different tiebreaker scenarios and all those things. So if you're rooting for stuff, I think that, rooting for BYU and then rooting for Colorado is the easiest way to get that done well ahead of time. I do think that this program and this head coach and these players will absolutely come in guns a-blazing into Morgantown. If it's 20 degrees, if it's 80 degrees, if it's raining, if it's snowing, whatever, if it's in morning time or nighttime, and they will be there to win that game. And they'll have some time to rest up. West Virginia will too, as they're off this week as well. But that's the simplest way I can dumb that down. It is also possible, this doesn't help you for your ticket buying questions, but it's also possible that because Arizona State plays Arizona on Friday night of Thanksgiving weekend on Black Friday, that you could, because you need Arizona State to take an L. That's going to be one of the easiest ways you can go, okay, at worst case, we're, they can't catch us, or we're not going to lose a tiebreaker over them or all that. So you need them to take an L. So again, that could all happen before you take the field on in Morgantown and all that. But it really, if BYU were to beat Cincinnati, it just kind of is really pointing to a rematch. And there's a way where Arizona State can get into this deal. Utah needs some help, but they're playing really good. Houston's kind of sneaking around, and so that's the simplest way I can describe it to you. And I will say this too, without knowing the CFP rankings yet, it is pretty clear to me, and I don't want to talk in absolutes, but it is very, very likely the only way the Big 12 gets multiple bids in the CFP is going to require a Texas Tech loss. And I'm not interested. Sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm
Texas
not interested. I'm not.
Remember that.
Yeah. I'm not interested. So it would require the possibility of you losing the last regular season game, getting to Arlington and then winning it. And maybe like a Utah can move up or something. Or you getting to the Big 12 title game against a BYU and then BYU beating you and then you still getting in or something. But I'm going to get greedy here. I think I'd like you to win in Morgantown and win in Arlington. And I think that's the way everybody will operate. But that's really what I see as far as all that goes. And we'll be on top of this all week because I'm as curious as anybody. because I'm personally I'm trying to figure out the ticket buying thing as well. So I will tell you something funny. The Cowboys were inundated by suite sales this last week. It's pretty clear that the Texas Tech folks bought up pretty much all levels of the suites for that game. I don't know how that works, if they can sell those deals or if committed to them or whatever, but your fans are buying tickets. And so if you want to go ahead and buy them and just say, I just don't want to chance it, do it. And then, understand that it is very likely that the percentages are very high that you will, at worst be second place in this deal and be playing in that game. So, but you could get stuck with having to sell these. Whatever. But I would just say, because I'm telling you, if you end up playing BYU, you're going to have regretted not buying them earlier, because the BYU folks will be all about it. They will come in droves if there are opportunities to go. So you may want to take advantage, because these prices, which are pretty high, they're only going to get higher. So that's the best I can do.
Darn good. Bang up job. Thanks so much. You are the best. There's your answer. And I'm just going to go back. It sounds like I was actually on point when I said Saturday night. Hell yeah. Why not? Go ahead and get them. Let's roll, baby.
I don't disagree with that. Again,
Jack Daniels talking in that also. But yes, that continues to remain the same as we kick off the week.
It is not clinched, but it's because at worst you're going to be 10-2 in the regular season, and then it just comes into, you just need to. Again, I just think the easiest thing is to have BYU win this weekend and have Colorado win, and then you can kind of have a different mindset, but then it allows your fans to start planning and all these things. So anyway, we'll see. But you may have to wait till the final weekend. You may have to win and get the thing in. But I think that Joey and crew would have it no other way. So we'll just kind of see what we get. But on this day, trying to answer that question, that's as good as I can offer up.
They're all still must win, so don't care a whole lot about all the other things. Right. It is Tech versus everybody. Big 12 pride in short supply very, very quickly as soon as those roads intersect. Chris, appreciate your time, man. Enjoyed the conversation. As always, plenty more still to come this week as we get ready for some Red Raider hoops to return. I do want to talk about the medical report, which I feel like you came out of the weekend pretty cleanly on, and still glad to have some open weekend time coming up, but we'll assess that situation and others. So looking forward to all of the above, man. Appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next one.
You got it. Hope is indeed alive, people. It's never been, you've never had more. Not going on right now. Enjoy it. Everybody can take a mental break here for a few days, and but we'll be here throughout. So appreciate the time, everybody. To all the people that have that have watched this, that come up and say that they're living here or living there. This platform is it's massive, and so we certainly appreciate it. We don't take it for granted, and we certainly appreciate everybody being a part of what we do here, man, and we'll keep it rolling. Fun times are these.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the Everydayers for always riding along in the Matador Mob. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. If you're interested in joining that crew, your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.